I've got a bunch of Ryzen based news to talk to you about today, so let's just jump right into the intro. Stay tuned. Welcome back to GamerMeld. The past few days have been sprawling with Ryzen news. I figured I'd just give it all to you in a single post. The first one comes from a couple people who actually sent me the link to a really popular post over at AMD's subreddit, and I wanted to give the first person a shout out, but I hadn't heard back if he's okay with that or not. Just know that if you're first to bring me the news, I'm happy to give you a shout out. Just make sure I know it's okay to give out your username. So on to the news. Basically, a Twitter user that goes by Bits and Chips ENG tweeted a benchmark that essentially shows a 35% increase in performance on Unreal Tournament 3 from the newest Microsoft update to Windows 10. He originally states 45% increase, but later corrected it by saying he meant 35. Obviously, I wish I could run my own tests on this, but until I can get my hands on Ryzen, I'm unable to. So you've got two camps on this. One is, for obvious reasons, wondering why it matters, as it's a much older game. Then others are just excited to see huge gains in gaming with Ryzen, as well as claiming it's clear Microsoft has been working on the Windows scheduler and it was an issue. After looking into it, one user claimed to see similar results while the other saw a 10% increase. Here's the thing. He stated he didn't see any improvements in any other games, which leads me to believe this is actually something pretty different from what people are really thinking. Simply put, just don't get your hopes up. Plus, something like 35% increase is it's way too high for any kind of update or anything like that you'd be seeing. I mean, even when we're talking the Windows scheduler, I don't know. That's a massive difference. I would really think that just puts it at a level where it shouldn't be. I don't know. Really, most games are performing right at where you'd expect with Ryzen 16 threads and clocks. It's great performance. There are some random anomalies, but optimization would almost certainly have to be done in the game. At least that's my opinion, especially if it's a Windows issue. We should be seeing horrible performance with all games. Basically what I'm saying is don't get your hopes up too high. We can wait and see how these benchmarks come out later, but just relax. The second bit of news comes from Overclock3D, who got it from Hard OCP, who are claiming motherboard manufacturers have been given AMD's new microcode. This comes in line with AMD's promise of delivering it to us in April. Here's to hoping we can see some nice overclocking gains in memory. While on the topic of RAM, MSI announced their new AXMP feature that's meant to support higher DDR4 memory clocks, as well as, it seems, one-click RAM overclocks. So basically they'll have preset timings that go with the frequencies, etc. This is probably just a marketing name for the aforementioned AMD microcode, but of course, they can implement it in their own way, so it's probably up to motherboard manufacturers how they do that. It definitely seems MSI is a nice approach, but of course we'll have to wait and see how that goes. To top it off, they're actually going to be releasing this for all their AM4 motherboards. That's pretty awesome. The third update is that AMD has officially announced they found the cause of the earlier reported system crashes from FMA code. They didn't give the cause, but they've given the information to board partners, so we should definitely see some updates rolling out soon. And the last bit of news I have is a pretty sick new MSI board some news outlets are discussing. As a side note, I know I'm talking a lot about MSI, but no, I'm not sponsored, just to let you know. The biggest news here, at least in my mind, is, at least according to PC Gamer, it's able to run up to 64 gigabytes of DDR4 at 3200 megatransfers per second or higher. Really quick, I know sometimes I can rabbit trail and everything. They actually stated megahertz, and that's really not technically right. The actual speed is half that, but since DDR memory runs 2 transfers per cycle, its effective speed is 3200 megatransfers per second, and that's why memory companies don't put megahertz on the box, but I digress. So yeah, while that ends the news portion of the video, I wanted to quickly address one thing that I don't think is stated when it comes to BIOS or, well, UEFI in modern PCs. Ryzen is very new, so you're going to be hearing a ton of people discussing BIOS updates and, oh, just do a BIOS update, but they never discuss the risks of this. Don't get me wrong. All new architecture like this will typically need BIOS updates. This is not something that's only affecting AMD or anything like that. The thing that I want to really get everyone to understand is that it isn't as simple as a quick little software update. You're essentially flashing new firmware to your UEFI chip, and if it goes wrong, you can actually break your entire board. Now, I'm not saying that to scare you, because if you're having a problem or want the new memory speeds coming out of AMD, you simply have to do it. but I don't want people to think it's something you need to be doing often. Basically, just make sure you're careful and know what you're doing when flashing a new BIOS update. That does it for today's video. I hope you liked it. If you did, go ahead and click that round icon in the middle to subscribe. You can also check out my last video to the left or a suggested video to the right. And as always, have a great day.